smartest of moves, but this thought was crossing my mind, so I thought it best to put it out there. A seller's market does not mean that every house being sold is going to go to the advantage of the seller. Even when a market favors one side or the other, so let's say that it's favoring the seller, as it is right now, there's risk and reward. Because a house being sold, people assume certain things about it. So let me give you an example. People assume that the house is move-in ready. Otherwise, why would you be selling it? Especially, and there's the obvious reason of, well, if it's priced low, but that's the key. So you have people that are buying houses and they know they're paying, an above market rate, or what now feels like an above market rate, simply because of the amount of time that has passed. But the reality is this: there is always risk and reward when you're listing a house on the market if you try to be too aggressive with the price. So let's start with the risk. I met with a seller yesterday, and he had been talking to other real estate agents, and they were kind of throwing numbers around. And generally speaking, the numbers that they offered in terms of a listing price were not ones that I would necessarily disagree with. Matter of fact, I think one of them was probably exactly where I'd start. But one person said to him that, hey, listen, if you made a few changes here, the house would be worth X dollars more. That's where the risk comes in. When a seller starts making changes to their house in order to increase the price to get it sold on the market, you're effectively assuming that you're going to be able to get an immediate return on $50,000, but I'm going to change the bathroom for $300,000. Well, a change in bathroom doesn't increase the price $50,000. But if you're selling it for, say, $265,000, you're going to get back what you put into the bathroom. But is it really material enough to warrant doing the work? So if you're a seller, the risk in listing your house above what it's actually worth, because you think you can in a market that's as commanding as this, what you could find is that you're sitting on market for a longer period of time. And this leads to point number 2. So aside from doing a list price that makes sense, which should be done based upon comparable sales, a lot of sellers aren't paying attention to what those comparable homes sold at in terms of days on market. And that's an important number. And it's an important number because what it really does is it tells you what you should anticipate for the length of time that your house is going to take to sell. And the days on market is not how many days it was until it closed. That's the number of days it was until it went to contract, because that's when they start the calculation change. And then when it actually closed. So when you see a house that says it was on three days on market, that's when it went from being an active listing to under contract. That's a status change in the MLS. It is not how many days it took for the house to actually be sold. On average, it takes 6 weeks to close a deal, from making an offer, doing inspections, going through appraisal, going to closing, etc. So if you list your house and what you're listing it for, let's say you're listing it for $250,000, but comparable sales are $240,000. Well, you might get closer to the $250,000 if your house is in good shape, doesn't need any work, etc. But the next question is, how long did it take for those homes sold at $240,000 to be sold for? And if the days on market average is, say, 22 days, which is about what it is right now in Connecticut, if the days on market is, say, 22 days on average, but the days on market for comparable homes to yours was 43, and you're asking $10,000 more, you may find that you're sitting on that house for a month or so. Then the next question is, those houses that sold for $240,000 that sat on the market for an average of 43 days, were they listed higher and then came down? See, if you don't know all those facts, if you're not looking into it, and you're not working with an agent who's actually dealing with that stuff, that's your risk. If you simply run to, I think I can sell the house for this much money, and then it's not performing, you now have a house that you have to start reducing in price. And the minute buyers see a house going down in price, they pause. They say, well, let's see if it goes down again. Or they think, maybe I should go in and offer less, because obviously there's something wrong with the house. Now, the reward for a seller in a market like the one that we're seeing, the reward is obviously that you can command a higher price simply because of the lack of available homes for purchase. So that's not something to be dismissive of in any way, shape, or form. But what you have to understand is that fundamentally, you have to know what is the extent of the reward you may get. So again, if you're listing a house for, say, $250,000, I'm just picking a number, and you're going to list it for $10,000 or $15,000 more because somebody told you, well, in this market you can get that. It doesn't mean you will. It doesn't mean you won't. The best thing to do is to list your house with the facts in hand. How does it sell comparable to other homes sold like it? Bedrooms, bathroom size, fixtures, features, yard, everything. Just how does it compare? Because if you're trying to sell a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath house compared to a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, they're not the same house, not even close. But if you're selling that house and you want to do it with comparable sales, you're looking at the days on market, you're looking at price reductions relative to those other sales, you're looking at all those facts, then you're a more informed seller and you have a better chance of commanding the price that's going to get the house sold in a shorter period of time. And that is the fundamental reward. Getting paid what the house is worth, doing it quickly, and taking under contract a buyer who has, well, very low risk terms. And that's another video. I think Bill and I covered that the other day, so take a look. But anyway, I'm just driving along here. I'm on my way up to Maine. I've got to do some business up there today. Yes, I work out of state, but I'm not licensed out of state. So for those of you who've asked me about that before, sorry, can't help you with that. But I have a very large network, so if you have interest in other states, let me know. I have people who I'm working with that are looking for vacation homes, for example. Some investors who are looking at Airbnb properties. And so I can help them all out. So at the end of the day, if you have any questions, if you have thoughts, comments, concerns, whatever, feel free to reach out. All right, guys. Talk to you later.